B-1.2 zoning. All right, let me pull up the document from our zoning code, and Wendy is here to keep me honest. Becky would really keep me honest, because she will criticize anything I say anytime, whenever she needs to. But let me say that the ability to have a B-1.2 zoning code in our category in our zoning code is something that's valuable to infill development. If you don't have it, or you significantly constrict it, then you lose a tool. This tool for B-1.2 zoning came about in the rework of our zoning code in Wendy 2010 generation, 2010. It didn't exist before that. When you're looking at building a structure in a pre-exist or an infill development in an area, and you are constrained by artificial setbacks, whether it be front, back, or side setbacks, what happens is you, in essence, leave no option for redevelopment in the area. So when the Cahaba Heights plan was put together in 2008 timeframe, 2007 timeframe, the idea of this to be a tool, particularly in Cahaba Heights, was something that was done purposely for that reason, to allow infill development. What has happened is, when the controversial apartment complex next to the school came in, they were using B-1.2 zoning. And so my statement would be, because that was the first, or maybe the second or third time a B-1.2 zoning would ever appear, it got a bad name. Oh, B-1.2 is a code word for building apartments next to an elementary school. And so there has been a recurring thought process of, well, we need to change B-1.2 because we don't want a apartment complex next to a school. Now, there are some other subtleties tied to density, tied to, hey, this allows too much density. But let me tell you, if you significantly change B-1.2, I will show you what type of development might occur. And I will pull up a picture of Government Street in downtown Mobile. Anybody go down Government Street? Government Street is a beautiful, beautiful street where you have old buildings, residential mixed-use buildings, pulled up to the street level. It's pedestrian oriented. You have sidewalks in front of those buildings. But you know what Mobile did not have when development and redevelopment occurred on Government Street? They didn't have a B-1.2 zone. They didn't have the ability to build a building up to the street edge, to alter the setbacks. So a nice Save-A-Lot, who was probably something else when it first came in here, was built with parking requirements, setback requirements that had no flexibility at all, and this is what you did. And I can tell you, anybody familiar, and Cinnamon, you may know the location of the Hardee's on Government Street, and how it sits back with a drive-through circulating around it amidst some beautiful homes on Government Street. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you, with a B-1.2 zoning, if you present, and I will tell, there are no existing B-1.2 zonings that have not been approved by current generation councils. And I think there's only one location, which is the one next to Milano Dermatology, that's sitting there without any construction going on. So anything that would occur with a B-1.2 zoning would come to the council for a decision. So you can approve or deny B-1.2 zoning for any future development on whatever basis you want, a valid basis you want to allow. But here, if this was built and they had a B-1.2 type zoning, an infill zoning, this building could have been built up to the street, to that sidewalk. Parking could have been in the rear, and it could be done more flexibly, and it would come with it a requirement that an engineering plan address everything associated with this, and most importantly, the B-1.2 zoning would also mandate that when you approve it, they are married to their site plan, and that's critical. So if they come with a B-1.2 zoning, unlike some of the other zoning categories, they come in and they show you a site plan and they want to build a building and they want to pull it up to the street level and they want to do certain parking requirements and be flexible with that, then they are married to that plan that you approve. To me, you hold the cards. You hold the cards on what is correct or wrong. If you come in and start severely restricting B-1.2 and coming in, and if you look at B-1.2, and you look at Table 6 of the zoning code, and you look at the uses that B-1.2 allows, it does allow a independent living facility, a multifamily, a townhouse. It does allow a mixture of uses. It allows office, it allows residential, it allows all. It's all done purposely so that there can be flexibility on infill. It does limit the height of the building to 3 feet or 3 stories or 35 feet, which controls the density, and then your density is controlled by the number of parking places. My statement is there's a desire, I think, to severely edit what B-1.2 allows by coming to Table 6 and saying, we don't want multifamily. We don't want X, Y, or Z. We want to limit the amount of density. Well, I will tell you, you control the cards. If you don't like what you see, you can reject it. And so to go in and arbitrarily change the zoning code for B-1.2, to me, would be tying hands for infill development. And then you, in essence, would have several properties, or a large number of infill properties that never get developed, because there's no way to do that. So my only statement, and Rusty and I talked about this, and we met with some residents of Carver Heights, and we promised we'd bring it up in a work session. And this is, in essence, what we talked about that day, correct, Rusty? Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to lay it out there, because I don't think there's an action item right now. But that drumbeat of B-1.2 is not a good zoning category. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There is a value to this, and really, whoever the elected body is still controls what happens, regardless of anything there. So.
Well, I think that the answer to the position that it's a way for apartments to be built next to schools is you have to trust the council to address it on a case-by-case basis and hope that the stakeholders and the community comes out and has a voice, a unified voice on what is acceptable. And I go back to the group that came in just off Overton Road. They came in with a unified voice. They had their concerns laid out in a very organized way that made sense. It made so much sense that the developer realized he was making a mistake and pulled his proposal. So from a planning on this ordinance standpoint, I don't know what the answer is, or if there is an answer. I hear your suggestion and your position, but I think that the most important takeaway from the conversation is that there has to be diligence on the part of the council to make sure that mistakes don't happen.
And if it's an issue of the use, in other words, I don't want apartments, then you are precluding any kind of mixture of a loft apartment above a retail, which was part of what was desired in sort of that. But again, there are certain controls in there that make some things very difficult as far as the density, and the idea of having the village scale development will happen because you can't build more than 3 stories, 35 feet, and you have to meet the parking requirements. So that's...
There's no conditional use for over 3 stories. I thought there was a conditional.
That was a part of the debate.
So that is a
3 stories or 35 feet.
Having lived through that, I think B-1.2 was blamed for things they didn't like. They didn't like the dentist office on right up to Dolly Ridge. They didn't like the apartments is what, but B-1.2 prevented him from going above 35 feet. If I think back, when he cut back his number of apartments, he wanted to go higher. And I think he realized real quick he wasn't going to get that variance to go higher. And that's one of the reasons the project went away.
That part of and there was a learning process during that entire thing too, because it was the first time there was ever a requested, quote, conditional use on a B-1.2. And we found later that there is no conditional use reference in the code. So bottom line is that, yeah, we need to be open to things, but ultimately council has to do their due diligence and address all the issues associated with development. And if you start constraining this, I will tell you, it would have been difficult to do leaf and petal. It would have been impossible to do the Martin's Barbecue. Look at where Martin's Barbecue has to sit, its building, at the Armstrong site. And I don't think anybody is critical of the Martin's Barbecue. It took Mr. Armstrong's gas station, which needed to be dealt with. And I love Mr. Armstrong, but it needed to be dealt with, and it's making it a better situation, and it would never have occurred if we didn't have a B-1.2 zone.
The apartment complexes were irritating.
It was.
Yeah, is it a Whole Foods over there in Mountain Brook off 280? Is that little area in there, would that be the equivalent of a B-1.2?
It'd be a mixed-use development.
Because it's got.
But it's in Mountain Brook, so they have a different code, but,
Yeah.
but it would be the equivalent of it.
Yeah.
That's basically the substance of the B-1.2 conversation, unless y'all want to drive it any deeper.
Rusty, did the Planning and Zoning Commission discuss the B-1.2, or was this just the private meeting with the constituent?
It was just constituents voicing concern and asking that there be a discussion. Planning and zoning, it came up, and I think it's come up generally, and I think that it'll come up in more detail when Pat Boone does his presentation of planning and zoning. We're having a work session. It's scheduled soon.
Right.
Trying to work out, as you know, there have been issues with people that couldn't attend. But I think it'll be addressed specifically at that. I know there were some questions presented to Pat to be ready to answer, and I think there were some questions about it that he was going to address at that work session.
Well, I would like to have that information from P&Z, because
I think you should
I
come
mean,
attend it.
well, I will when it happens, but if it ever happens.
I think it's good.
I mean, I don't know enough to be conversant or to have an informed opinion about, what should be done or not be done, but I think the P&Z would be the authority in that matter, so I would trust whatever they decide.
Ultimately, y'all are the authority there as far as the zoning code. So,
Yeah, I think the concern, I understand that the council is the one that makes those decisions ultimately, but we are constrained by law and, risk of being sued if we do the wrong thing, which has happened in the past. So, there's some reason to at least look at it to see if there are things that need to be tightened up to prevent things that we don't want to allow.
So the last ad hoc item is really just a passing reference. Mayor Curry and I were approached by the previous supporters and those involved in the Fayetteville Sports Hall of Fame. It still exists as an entity, but it has no home. It has memorabilia, but no place to place